Today on The Missing Dots, we confront one of the most polarizing and complex figures of the Second Islamic Civil War, Mukhtar al-Thaqafi. While mainstream culture views him as the ultimate champion of absolute justice, the authoritative textual layer tells a vastly different story. Authentic canonical records reveal a chilling reality where the living head of the Al-Bayt, Imam Zayn al-Abidin, radically rejected and publicly cursed Mukhtar as a deceptive opportunist. Forced to operate under unauthorized camouflage, Mukhtar forged mandates and invented the proto-Shia heretical concept of al-Bada to insulate his failing military campaigns. In this episode, we strip away the twin layers of sectarian information warfare to analyze the real anatomy of this 7th century Kufan hijack, uncovering the cold mechanics of prophetic charlatanism and political self-destruction.
You know, I'd love for everyone listening to just imagine for a second that the three of us, you listening, and then the two of us sitting right here, are just hanging out in the quiet shade of a mosque courtyard.
Yeah, like right after the afternoon prayer, maybe?
Exactly. The crowds have sort of thinned out, the air is really still, and we just have the peace to, talk honestly about history.
That's a great vibe.
Yeah.
Because that is really our only intention today.
Right. We aren't here to issue fatwas, and we definitely aren't interested in attacking any sect.
We're not here to preach at all.
No, not at all. We basically just want to sit together and impartially read the classical historiography. We want to look at the biographical audits from both the Sunni and Shia traditions.
And maybe use some modern political science models too, right? Just to figure out what actually went down in the city of Kufa back in the year 66 AH.
Yes. Because when you actually map out the raw political timeline of the Second Civil War, a much colder, much more calculated picture of this man starts to emerge.
I really appreciate that framing, honestly. Because Kufa, right after the tragedy of Karbala, was a city that was basically drowning in collective trauma.
Oh, absolutely drowning in it.
It was incredibly volatile. So if we want to understand the raw mechanics of how Mukhtar built his myth, we have to start by grounding ourselves in his personal timeline.
Right, his origins.
Yeah. So we know he came from the Thaqif tribe, and I know he was actually imprisoned by the Umayyad governor Ubayd ibn Ziyad during the actual events of Karbala.
He was sitting in a prison cell when the tragedy happened.
But his political maneuvering right after he gets out of prison is, it's pretty wild. He leaves Kufa, he goes down to Mecca, and he actually pledges his allegiance to the counter-caliph there, Abdullah ibn al-Zubayr.
That's the crucial pivot right there. He fights for the Zubayrids during the siege of Mecca, but he isn't doing it out of some deep ideological loyalty.
Really? So what was his angle?
Well, he demanded a return on his investment. He wanted to be part of Ibn al-Zubayr's absolute inner circle, and he specifically wanted supreme independent authority over Iraq.
Over the whole region.
Yeah, and when Ibn al-Zubayr refused to give him that kind of unchecked power, Mukhtar just abandoned him. He just left the camp, rode all the way back to Kufa, and decided to build his own independent base.
Wait, so before he became this legendary elite avenger, he was effectively just a military contractor for the Zubayrids?
Pretty much, yeah.
It sounds exactly like a corporate executive interviewing for a CEO position and then just changing companies the very second he didn't get the title he wanted.
That is a highly accurate way to look at it. He was a pure pragmatist. But when he gets back to Kufa, he has a huge problem. He has alienated the Zubayrids, and the Arab tribal aristocracy in Kufa, the Ashraf, they really don't want to back him.
So he has no army.
Exactly. He lacks the traditional backing. And so he desperately needs a new military base. And this leads to his really brilliant, if incredibly calculating demographic strategy.
Oh, the mobilization of the Mawali.
Yes. You have to realize Kufa was an incredibly stratified city. The Arab elites held all the power and the wealth, but beneath them you had the Mawali.
And these were the non-Arab Muslim clients, right? Many of them Persian.
Right. They were a massive, massive majority of the population. They were the merchants, the artisans, the foot soldiers.
But they were totally disenfranchised.
Completely. They were denied equal state pensions, the Aita. When they fought in the military, they were forced to fight on foot while the Arabs rode horses. And they were systematically barred from any high military command.
So they were just this massive, resentful underclass.
A powder keg. And Mukhtar walked right up and lit the fuse. He completely bypassed the Arab elites. He elevated the Mawali, he freed slaves who agreed to join his army, and he put them in supreme command positions.
Like his security chief, right? Abu Amra Kaysan.
Exactly. Kaysan was a Mala, and Mukhtar made him his top enforcer. Now, if we look at this through the lens of political science, this wasn't some modern altruistic human rights crusade.
Right.
It was a raw demographic manipulation. He needed bodies holding swords, so he bought the loyalty of the most marginalized group in the city.
Subhanallah. That sheer political cunning is it's wild to think about. But it raises a really tough philosophical question, I think.
How so?
Yeah. If a leader does the right thing, like giving marginalized people equal pay and freeing slaves, but he does it purely to build a personal, loyal paramilitary force for his own ambitions, how do we judge that historically?
It's the ultimate dilemma of intent versus action. The Mawali gained a lot of agency, but that agency was entirely chained to Mukhtar's survival. He used their genuine, justified grievances as a ladder.
Wow. Okay, so he has his army now. He has the swords.
He has the swords, but he still lacks the most important thing in a religious civil war.
Spiritual legitimacy.
Exactly. You can't claim to be the avenger of the Prophet's family without the actual Prophet's family signing off on it.
So he needs a mandate.
He desperately needs one. And so he tries to get it from the living, undisputed head of the al-Bayt at the time, Imam Zayn al-Abidin, who was living quietly in Medina.
Imam Husayn's son.
Yes. The survivor of Karbala. Mukhtar sends envoys from Kufa carrying massive, massive sums of money. The texts mention 20,000 and later 40,000 dinars.
That is a staggering amount of state treasury wealth.
It was a bribe for public backing.
So what does the imam do when these bags of gold show up at his door?
He completely rejects it. The authoritative canonical records are absolutely clear on this. Imam Zayn al-Abidin turned the envoys away from his door. He famously stated that he does not accept, quote, the gifts of liars.
Oh, wow. He called him a liar openly.
Yes. He not only refused the money, but he went to the Prophet's mosque in Medina and publicly denounced Mukhtar from the pulpit. He cursed him as a deceptive opportunist who was just exploiting the tragedy of his father, Imam Husayn, to gain temporal power.
It's truly chilling when you put it like that. I mean, claiming to avenge a family while simultaneously ignoring the surviving head of that exact family who is actively telling you to stop.
Right. It's a total contradiction.
It's basically like claiming you're protecting someone's house while you're forging their signature on the deed to sell it.
That is exactly what it was. It was unauthorized camouflage. So, having been radically rejected by the primary lineage, Mukhtar realizes he has to pivot. He needs a figurehead who is isolated enough to be manipulated.
So who does he go to?
He pivots to Muhammad ibn al-Hanafiya.
Okay, so he's a son of Ali, but not from Fatima.
Correct. And he was living under very heavy pressure from the Zubarids in Mecca. Mukhtar just unilaterally proclaims that Ibn al-Hanafiya is the Mahdi and that he, Mukhtar, is his authorized deputy, his wazir.
Did Ibn al-Hanafiya actually agree to this?
No, he maintained a very carefully non-committal silence. He didn't endorse it, but he was isolated and trying to survive. He mostly just warned Mukhtar against shedding blood.
But Mukhtar runs with it anyway.
He more than runs with it. He starts forging mandates. To secure the alliance of really key, seasoned Kufan military figures like Ibrahim ibn al-Ashtar, Mukhtar starts presenting fake letters from Ibn al-Hanafiya.
Wait, he just showed them forged letters. How did people fall for that?
Well, it's interesting you ask. Some of them almost didn't. When Mukhtar gave the letter to Ibrahim ibn al-Ashtar, Ibrahim actually examined it and grew very suspicious.
What gave it away?
Ibrahim noticed that the lead seal on the scroll was still wet.
You're kidding.
No, he literally pointed out that it looked like it had been stamped in Kufa that morning, not carried for weeks through the desert from Mecca.
Wow. So Ibrahim knows it's a fake, but he joins him anyway.
He does. Because the emotional pressure in Kufa was so intense. The communal guilt over failing Imam Husayn was suffocating them. Men like Ibrahim wanted so desperately to take action that they willingly suspended their disbelief. They wanted the mandate to be real.
So they just accepted the forgery.
They accepted the camouflage. But, you know, when you build a regime on that kind of spiritual fraud, things eventually start to fracture.
Right, because now he's surrounded. He's got the Umayyads in the north and the Zubarids in the south.
Yes. His military campaigns are failing. And when your soldiers start losing, and you don't actually have a divine mandate from the Imam, you have to find a way to maintain troop morale.
So what does he do?
He slides right into outright mysticism and psychological warfare.
Okay, explain that.
Have you ever heard of the Chair of Prophecy?
The chair? No, what is that?
It is one of the most bizarre episodes in this history. Mukhtar found an old, dilapidated wooden chair. Some sources say he bought it from an oil merchant.
An oil merchant?
Yeah. He takes this old wooden chair, drapes it in expensive silk, and parades it out in front of his troops on a mule.
You cannot be serious.
I am. He told his Mawali soldiers that this chair functioned exactly like the Israelite Ark of the Covenant, the Taboot. He said it possessed divine grace and that carrying it into battle would magically guarantee their victory.
Wait, so when a military prediction fails on the battlefield, or when he feels his grip slipping, he resorts to a magic piece of furniture?
It was absolute theatrical manipulation. But it gets worse. He descends into actual prophetic charlatanism. He started delivering his sermons using the rhyming prose of the Quran, the Saj.
Oh, mimicking the revelation.
Yes. And he eventually claimed that the angel Gabriel was bringing him direct revelation Y from the heavens.
That is a massive theological red line.
It's the ultimate red line in Islam. It's why the Prophet's hadith warned about a liar and destroyer from Thaqif. The early Muslims universally understood that the liar was Mukhtar.
Because claiming revelation after the finality of prophethood is, it takes you entirely outside the fold.
Exactly. But the breaking point for his followers came at the Battle of Madhar.
What happened there?
Mukhtar sent his army to fight the Zubayrids, and before they left, he explicitly promised his troops a divinely guaranteed victory. He told them God had revealed they would win.
And I'm guessing they didn't.
It was a slaughter. They suffered a devastating, catastrophic defeat. The survivors who made it back to Kufa were furious. They cornered Mukhtar and demanded to know why his divine prophecy had failed.
Telling your followers, God simply changed his mind? Seems like the ultimate political escape hatch. How did he actually handle it?
You literally just said it. That is exactly what he told them.
Wait, really?
Yes, this was the invention of the proto-Shia heretical concept of al-Bada. Mukhtar told his men, my prophecy wasn't wrong, God simply altered his own decree at the last minute.
Subhanallah. He blamed the creator for his own military failure. How did classical scholars react to this level of manipulation?
With absolute horror. Because the concept of al-Bada, the way Mukhtar used it, suggests that God is changeable or ignorant of the future. It's total heresy. So you have this man who is officially cursed by Imam Zayn al-Abidin forging letters, claiming Gabriel visits him, and inventing heresies to cover his lost battles.
Which brings up a huge contradiction, because we're sitting here looking at this historical record and it's bleak.
It is very bleak.
So how on earth did Mukhtar become remembered as a flawless, saintly hero today? How does a warlord cursed by the actual al-Bayt turn into this ultimate champion of absolute justice in mainstream culture?
That is where we have to talk about the twin layers of sectarian information warfare. The historiography itself became a battlefield.
Okay, let's break that down. What's the first layer?
The first layer comes from his own surviving followers, the Kaysanite information engine.
Kaysanites, from his enforcer Abu Amr Kaysan.
Exactly. After Mukhtar was killed and his movement was crushed, his surviving followers formed a heterodox sect. And they shifted from a physical war to an information war.
Using what, like oral traditions?
Yes, oral formulaic storytelling. Over the decades, they retrofitted this failed Kufan insurgency into a massive cosmic epic. They needed to cope with their devastating loss.
So they changed the story to make themselves feel better.
Right. They took the historical reality of political state executions, because Mukhtar did execute the perpetrators of Karbala, like Umar ibn Sa'd and Ibn Ziyad, but the Kaysanites mutated those events. They added hyper-dramatic, elaborate torture myths to the narrative.
Oh, to satisfy that deep psychological thirst for vengeance.
Exactly. They turned a deeply flawed political operator into an infallible mythic hero.
Okay, so the Kaysanites are building him up? What about the other side? You mentioned twin layers.
The second layer was the Zubayrid and Umayyad smear campaigns.
So, the state empires.
Right. They had a huge vested interest in making Mukhtar look as demonic as possible. They amplified his genuine heresies and exaggerated them to smear all Alid sympathizers.
Why? Just to discredit the opposition?
To discredit them, yes, but also to justify their own horrific atrocities.
Atrocities like what?
When Muzab ibn al-Zubair finally defeated Mukhtar and took Kufa, thousands of Mukhtar's Kufan troops surrendered.
Okay.
Muzab executed all of them. 6,000 to 7,000 surrendered men, slaughtered in a single day.
SubhanAllah. 7,000 prisoners of war.
Yes, it was an absolute massacre. And to justify doing something that barbaric, the Zubayrid and Umayyad historians painted the entire Kufan populace as unhinged, demonic heretics. It's much easier to explain away a mass execution if you tell the empire you just wiped out an apocalyptic cult.
Wow. So objective history is literally just crushed between these two extremes. You have the Kaysanite hagiography trying to make him a saint,
Yeah.
and the Umayyad propaganda trying to make him a monster.
Exactly. And our job, sitting here in this courtyard, is to strip away both of those layers to find the real political operator underneath.
And when we do that, we don't find a pure cosmic hero.
No, we don't.
But we also don't find just a simple cartoonish fraud.
No. We find a highly capable Machiavellian insurgent, a man who recognized a deeply traumatized society and weaponized that trauma perfectly.
Right. And to be fair to the history, he did deliver a measure of political justice against the perpetrators of Karbala. The executions of those commanders did happen.
They did, but he executed that justice completely without authorization from the Imam. He did it for his own sovereignty. And ultimately, he destroyed himself and thousands of his followers through theological overreach and opportunistic deception.
It is just a massive, sobering reality check on how history is formed. It leaves you with a really unsettling final thought to ponder.
What's that?
Well, if our collective historical memory can completely rewrite the motives of a 7th century Kufan warlord just to satisfy a communal need for justice, we really have to ask ourselves today, what contemporary historical figures are we mythologizing in real time right now? Who are we looking at ignoring their actual methods simply because we happen to agree with their stated goals?
That is a very heavy but very necessary question to ask.
So rebuild your mental peace and legacy today. Give charity, sponsor a student, and plant a tree. May Allah grant us success. Don't forget to come on, let's go. Don't forget to follow this channel, The Missing Dots. Thank you.